So what I like to do is ask if anybody's got a card that really speaks to them. Nobody, okay? I do. Teach only love, for that is what you are.
That's beautiful.
We can get that, we can go home.
I've got a good one too. Except ye become as little children means that unless you fully recognize your complete dependence on God, you cannot know the real power of the Son in his true relationship with his Father.
I like mine too. God is praised whenever any mind learns to be wholly helpful.
I got a good one too.
Holy, most of the time, holy is W-H-O-L-L-Y. One of the things, yeah.
But it can go either way. Mine says, your patience with your brother is your patience with yourself. Is not a child of God worth patience?
Mine speaks to me quite well. Think not you understand anything until you pass the test of perfect peace. For peace and understanding go together and never can be found alone. Understanding is mine.
I
Well,
should pull
mine
that
is-
card in front of me and watching the president on TV.
Yes, so true.
Can I do it?
Mine is kind of what my week ahead of this was about. All anger is nothing more than an attempt to make someone feel guilty.
Wow.
My children are planning an 80th birthday party for me.
Oh,
And
that's sweet.
why? Family stuff brings up other stuff. I have no idea. But when you've got a lot of people involved trying to do something and they're all distance, they're all far away, it didn't. So they kept calling me with all these things like, Mother, you can't let this happen. Mother, you can't let this happen. And I finally said, you know what? You guys work it out. I'm losing my peace of mind over this. I started to get really angry, and then I thought, but I read this card, now I know why to stop myself. Because if I'd have gotten angry, I'd have just been trying to make them feel guilty for not maybe following my way rather than what they wanted to do. So I said, you guys just work it out. If you can come, come. If you can't, you can't. I love you anyway, and let's just do what you do. We'll just have it go. And that's the way I left it. And it's been, I felt much more peaceful. Up until then, I was like not sleeping at night for a couple of nights and everything else, but I was letting it get to me, and I really didn't need to.
My friend George Evans, who's not a student of this course, says, what would you sell your piece for? A flat tire? $5 somebody didn't pay you back? Yeah. Don, you want to read yours?
Yes, every interpretation you could lay upon a brother is senseless. Let the Holy Spirit show him to you and teach you both his love and his call for love. Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought.
I don't remember ever hearing that one before.
I don't either. That's bad.
Did you just write that one yourself?
I just showed up.
Yeah.
Want to read it one more time?
Yeah,
Anybody else like to hear it again? Yeah.
Every interpretation you would lay upon a brother is senseless. Let the Holy Spirit show him to you and teach you both his love and his call for love. Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought.
Wow. Wow.
Does it say where it is in the course? Does it have a page? It should. Well, maybe. Yeah, at the bottom of the.
On the bottom of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Bottom right. Or just, can you
Just-
say it?
Oh, okay. T-14-X-11-4.
Okay, so it's
It's
text.
14.
Text
Chapter
chapter
10.
Chapter 14.
Yeah. Section
Oh,
10.
look, that's a deer come to visit.
Is he coming in?
Just
Or
pass.
pass
Oh,
those.
there they are.
want to pass those around to Kat.
Oh, I have one I'd like to read too. There is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There is nothing to be feared. Right?
Not even when the guy that walked along.
Nothing to be feared.
I was afraid she's
These
going to
are
say
beautiful
that.
For
cards.
my garden.
You have it.
Friends.
Brian? Oh, these are good, Brian.
Scott?
The Holy Spirit's voice is as loud as your willingness to listen.
Oh, isn't that
That's a
sweet?
good one.
Mine's long. The mind that serves the Holy Spirit is unlimited forever, and always beyond the laws of time and space, unbound by any preconceptions, and with strength and power to do whatever it is asked. I have to think about that.
Could you read that one? Could you read that one again?
Yeah. The mind that serves the Holy Spirit is unlimited forever, and always beyond the laws of time and space, unbound by any preconceptions, and with strength and power to do whatever it is asked.
Trouble is, our minds are serving the ego rather than the Holy Spirit most of the time. Tim?
You cannot enter into real relationships with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally. Love is not special.
Try that one when you're watching the news.
Or you're in politics.
Could you read that again?
You cannot enter into real relationships with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally. Love is not special.
All and equally.
So it's not special love. The special love is something you have to get, you want to get back from your love.
I'll have to consider that watching Trump on TV.
Yeah,
Equally.
he's definitely been a good case in point.
I can remember way early on in my relationship with Brother when he said, I'd like to have you bring to mind the person in the world that you love the most. So I did. My love there. And he said, now bring to mind the person you love the least. And that came almost as quickly. And he said, if someone comes to your mind, then the love you felt for the first is bogus.
It's
Whoa.
It's bogus.
Bogus.
Take. Yeah.
Is that because love is unconditional? Is that
Yeah.
the essence of it?
Love,
Yeah.
it's taken me a long time just to understand it. But love is not something that comes and goes or is optional or is divided. It's like the air that you breathe. It's like the essence of who you are. It simply is. So it can't be someplace and not be someplace else. If it is, then we're calling it by the wrong name.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's
In other words, if there's anyone that I dislike or don't love or whatever, then I really am not experiencing love of anyone else in the sense that would be possible. Is that right?
That's right.
I see it somewhat. If there's anyone anywhere that I do not love, it's because I do not love myself. And I think that out of self-love comes the ability to love others. But if we can't even love ourselves, how can we possibly love someone else.
Anytime your ego is in charge, you're not loving everyone equally.
Mhm. Kat?
In quietness are all things answered, and is every problem quietly resolved.
And mine is, can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely to be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Going back to every time you watch the television at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny when you watch somebody like Donald Trump, or I like to watch sports, and a lot of times you'll see one player who is kind of the star, so he's adulated by everyone, and the rest of them, well, let's watch LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, like they're not even there. And so that really bugs me. But when I look at it, I played the game the same way he does. I have, so it's like the ego, stillness. When we're still, like that book of Eckhart's, when we're still, when the mind is still, that's the only time we really can love equal and not point out something in someone that we don't like, because what we see is what we don't like in ourselves or haven't liked in ourselves. That's the only way we know that it's screwed up, because we've done the same thing. And that's when our ego is going crazy, which it usually does.
Which is par for the course, right?
Yeah.
So to be calm all the time and have no worries and no anxieties, it'd be kind of like to be like Jim here.
You can be.
Yeah.
All you got to do is marry her.
I knew there was a hit.
There is a diplomat, if I
I didn't hear that. I don't want to hear
A
that.
diplomat.
And you have a problem with politicians? No? Good.
Why?
Well, you are one.
Politician?
No,
Yeah, you just said.
he's a happy husband.
No.
Do we get everybody? Want to pass
I
them back?
already read mine.
Oh, yeah. You already read yours, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I'll put mine back.
Yeah, just put it in the back.
Oh,
That way we won't draw the same ones all the time.
I always draw from the back.
I knew there was something wrong with you.
Where did you find these?
These come from the Miracle Distribution Center.
Oh, California.
$15.
Okay.
These are the original ones that were made by, I can't remember his name. I know him. But they were all in calligraphy.
Wasn't
Yeah,
that Kelly
they
Love?
No, it's a guy that's doing a weekend retreat in Brighton Bush, Oregon next month. He and Charlie Thweet put one on. Thweet?
Tweet?
Yeah. They call it Soak in the Love. I went there last year. It's great. I'd been there about 30 years ago too, but not in between. And anyway, the guy that drew all of these out of this book and made the cards up all with calligraphy helps to put that on.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, but now he doesn't do it anymore. Evidently, he gave the rights over to this Miracle Distribution Center. And yeah, these are great. So maybe we ought to go ahead.
Did you have a miracle show up this week?
I did. In all this turmoil that seemed to be coming at me from the family for the birthday party or whatever. It wasn't even my idea. It was supposed to be a surprise party. But, so when all this, one of the things was, if she comes, I don't want her to come. And at first I started to be upset about that, and I thought, no, this is not going to happen. This is not, I'm not going to, this is not where I'm at. This is not who I am. This is not, I said, if that is your choice, then that's fine. Then just don't invite her. You're doing the inviting. So if whatever you want to do, do. But it is not, it is, she's a perfect, wonderful person, and I'm happy with her. And I thought, I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to get mad at the person who's requested this. I'm not going to get mad because it's being requested. I just don't want to go there. So I just started, my little voice said, stop. Think about God. So I just spent the rest of the afternoon meditating and reading and that. And lo and behold, today, she's been invited by the person who didn't want to invite her. I didn't have anything to do with it. It's not my word, not me.
You had everything
I
to do
just
with it.
absolutely just refused to participate in it.
Yeah, but you had everything to do with it.
Oh, thank you. I just decided I was not going to go there. I was not going to play that game or think about it or let those thoughts rule my head. And that's why that anger part is, because if you do allow yourself to get into anger, and that was my mother's approach to anything that wasn't quite right, so it is kind of was for years a first response for me. So I had to, let that go.
You did exactly what
Yeah.
Emmett Fox says to do. He calls it the golden key. Get your mind off the problem and put your mind onto God, because God is the solution to all your problems. Mm-hmm. And he says, think about the attributes of God: love, kindness, forgiveness, compassion, all those kinds of peace, yes, acceptance. When you put your mind on those things and get it off the problem, then you've got
That's
your mind
the
on the
miracle.
solution.
Truly, that is a miracle.
I'm doing Robert Holden and Louise Hay. It's actually Louise Hay's book put together by Robert on that trust life. And that day happened to be full of just affirmations to say one after another, put on your mirror, concentrate on them. And it was this was a wonderful clearing of the mind. So that plus the other reading I did was really great.
Who else? Thanks, honey.
So I did have a little miracle on there. Even
That's a big miracle.
A big miracle.
Yeah. But I think it's well for you to remember and admit that it was your attitude that created the space, so-called, for everything else to occur. Things don't happen by random or in isolation.
And the really good news is I get to see my granddaughter this weekend.
Who else has something they'd like to share?
How about you?
I had a little miracle last night myself. I don't know if Linda even remembers. I finished my book last night. That's what I was doing.
Hey, I've got an author here, I know.
And something happened. I know what it was. I went to close the file and then put the file, save it on a memory stick, just to keep it out of harm's way, potentially. And then I get a phone call in between. I have so many files on my desktop that I couldn't distinguish one from the other. So I lost it. I couldn't find the darn little thing. I just finished the book and it was gone.
Oh.
It was just gone. And so I said to Linda, half laughing and half screaming, I lost my book. I just finished it and I lost it. She came over and she stood there looking at me. And I said, well, what? Did you hear me? She said, yes, but I know that my love can help you find it. put my cursor on the right one file and opened it up, and there it was.
I forgot that one. I'll do that again.
Yeah. Who else?
Well, I asked the Holy Spirit to be with me today, my first day of golf since last September, and it went beautifully. I had some good shots, and I had some not so good shots, and it didn't matter. I had a great time with the girls,
Good.
so it was fun.
That's the Holy Spirit's toughest job. You recognize that. Golfers. No tougher job. What happened in our world this week that would seem to challenge you? Anything? Sally shared with us her challenge and how it worked out. Who else? We probably had about 100 of them a day, though, didn't we?
I might mention that Tom's book, he loaned me a copy of it, and we are reading it in our Monday morning group in Bremerton. If anybody would like to come to Bremerton, we do that every Monday morning. And
At what time?
10 o'clock.
So nothing.
Yeah, that's when you usually roll in. And I'm also involved in a Monday afternoon group where we're reading Gary Renard's Disappearance of the Universe. That's in Paulsbo at 1 o'clock. Thursday evening in Paulsbo, we're reading Conversations with God at 6:15. If anybody would like to take part in any of those,
That's great.
you're all invited.
Great.
When will the book be published? So that we can all have a copy, the book.
Oh,
Haven't gotten that far yet.
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't take very long now.
What is the name of it?
Actually, when I got done with the book, I discovered it had 445 pages, and that was too big for a book. So I've decided to publish it in 2 volumes.
Oh,
2 volumes, each about 225. And the copy of the first volume, the title of the first volume is Let Love Find You. And the copy of the second, or the title of the second book is, and I've just changed it 2 days ago, is Find the Adventure of Loving. I think I shared with you all that one day, one morning when we were having our quiet time, somebody who was there, somebody visiting was there, and asked Brother, or was suggesting to Brother that what his purpose in life was. And Brother came back to him and said he would like to encourage him to understand that his identification, so to speak, could best be known by understanding that he was the experience of God loving. And had quite a profound effect on me. Being the experience of God loving. That's who you are. But what it does for me, it makes me think of all the times when, perhaps without thinking, I would jump to a conclusion, make a judgment, do something that jerks me away from the reality of who I am. But just the thought, whoops, wait a minute. That doesn't really show me what the presence of God loving would be. I think that's what you decided to be, Sally.
I'm sorry.
I think that's what you decided to be.
Yeah.
The presence of God living.
Well, I just determined I was going to remember who I really was, not what the world was showing me.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Who else would like to share? Did you have an example this week of being the presence of God living? Maybe that would be our homework. To recognize all of the opportunities, or maybe even just one of the opportunities that we were given to be the presence of God living. It also makes it very difficult to try to wiggle out of being a part of God. Have you ever thought, or could you ever think of yourself in that way?
Well, if we're not the experience of God loving, then I would say that we're pretty connected to the ego.
I think the thing that I sent out on email is probably the thing that I've been aware of most lately, where it says that when you're in the past or in the future, there is the ego. When you're in the presence, now, the present moment, when you can focus on being just here now, that's, for me, that's when God, I am aware of the presence of God, is when I'm right here, right now. The holy instant, the Course calls it. When I react to something based on my conditioning, which is the past, projected in the future, God's nowhere. I'm not aware of God. I mean, God is still in here, but I'm not aware of it. So when I'm present, and that's why I love Eckhart so much, is that's his whole thing, is being present. The ego cannot be here in the now, in the present moment. The only time it shows up is when we're projecting the past into the future, or worrying about the future because of the past. So for me, that's the miracle I'm experiencing. And it's a reverse conditioning. It's conditioning to be present instead of conditioned to be the little me, the false mind me. So, since I've been there, things have been going like it went with Sally, Things just sort of go well. as opposed to being a pain in the ass like it is most of the time, you know, when you're not there.
I see worry as praying for what I don't want.
Yes.
It's like, why would I do that? Because if I call it into my mind, it'll show up. And so I want to be real careful about what I call into my mind. And as I stop myself from those negative things, the minute I say stop, then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, everything's fine. And then here comes another one, and stop.
Let it go.
Let it go. Let all things be exactly as they are.
Yeah.
Wayne Dyer says it's like ordering up what you don't want when you worry about something.
Yeah.
He says it's like going into the department store and saying, God, that is the ugliest lamp I've ever seen. I'll take two.
When we resist what is.
Or what seems to be.
Yeah. I still love the words of the Course early on where it says, I can be hurt only by my judgments. I like that. I mean, that tells me what to stay away from. I can be hurt only by my judgments. So I'm not going to judge that statement anymore.
And you said it so well in that, I remember one time I said, I quoted Eckhart, he says the three aspects of awakened living: non-attachment, non-resistance, and non-judgment. And you came back and said, embrace it. And that's one word that encompasses all three. Just embrace what is. And don't resist it.
Think for a moment why that is so true. Why it is so true to experience the resistance, so to speak. Who was the one that came up with the idea that you're resisting?
False me. The me. Little me.
That's me. I'm resisting myself.
Yeah. The me is the only thing, the only one that resists.
I think another word for attachment too is expectations.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I do this, then they'll do that, and then this will turn out that way. It's been my experience. It never happens the way I think it
And
should.
the ego is the only thing that expects something back from whatever it puts out, even though we get back what we put out.
And rarely, if ever, does it expect something good.
Right.
My ongoing challenge right now is, and I catch myself, but then I sometimes don't, is I think you guys all know that my granddaughter was in a pretty good car accident and has a concussion and a whiplash and hasn't been able to go back to school yet. So she's getting all these therapies and she's due to go to Thailand in the end of June. And we thought, oh gosh, I hope she gets to go to Thailand. And then I have to go, stop. And if I can just stay in the present, you know, if she needs me to take her to an appointment, if her mom needs me to take her, just stay here right now. But that's really been, that's been a hard focus to stay there. But I'm catching myself. So, you know, when something like this is going on, it's really a good opportunity to practice and not project what the outcomes could be into the future. Because that would be easy for me to do. And recognizing that Dennis, I think, had a brain injury that I suppose caused him his dementia. And so that's just been right in my face every day, on my face. So working on just staying present. Like you said, it's just so helpful. Just be here now. You don't have to go anyplace else. Just be here now. Just do what you can do here now.
Even being here now is met with, or can be, met with a lot of resistance issues, most of which are centered around the idea of being a body. Last week when we took a look at Lesson 84, I think it was Lesson 84, where Brother says something like, you're the presence of God, you cannot suffer, you cannot experience pain, you cannot die. And yet, here we are knowing that we experience all of those things. We not only experience them, we embrace them. And why would any one of them be present if I were not trying to protect my body?
See, I think one thing I left out is when we talk about being present, which helps me in particular, is that, okay, we talked about staying in the present moment, and that can be difficult at times if we judge, if we did what we call discriminate. So when we're in the present moment, if we can keep from judging it, discriminating, because the present moment can be difficult, but the idea of staying there is not to judge it, not to discriminate as being good or bad. It just is as it is. Then the present moment works, because we don't, that's, God is there. We're aware of that within us. And so whatever happens is okay. We accept it. We don't resist it. We don't discriminate.
If we trust God, we let go.
Yeah.
And if we don't let go, we don't trust God. So letting go can become a way of life. In other words, I don't know what's coming up, and I don't know why it's coming up, but I know somehow love is behind it, and I'll just wait and see how this works out.
Yeah.
And it's a place where there's either a deep sense of peace or a sense that peace is just around the corner. And both of those are okay with me.
It's exactly what Sally did. She just let it go and went at it from love. And look how it worked out. That's how our life tends to go when we go from love in the moment.
I just noticed something, Tom. When Dan said that, exactly what Sally did, I thought, yeah, but it's not over yet. So I'm still looking for something.
But it is.
How do you get out of that?
Stop yabba.
You're worried about the future. That's
Well, you primarily,
Pardon?
you finish it off by asking.
Yeah. Asking to be led.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Let go of the outcome.
I just noticed my thought when you said that, though, that it was like, but it's not over yet.
But it is. You have to let it go. You have to detach from the outcome and not worry about it. And then it will work out as it's supposed to. And it's not good, it's not bad. There is no good or bad.
Well, when I just asked, what it says is stay in a sense of gratitude for all the blessings that are there.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and watch the TV news about the president that way.
Or don't watch it at all.
Or don't watch it. No, I'm curious about the news, so I was kind of
Sure, I mean-
wanting to know what's going on. But I think that's a very nice challenge for me
Yeah.
to.
Not watching it at all is an admission of the judgment.
Well, it's a resistance, yeah.
Yeah.
But why be?
So you
It's
can-
like watching commercials. Why beat yourself up?
Jim hit me with that the other day because I won't watch the news and he does, and he says, honey, you think by not watching it, you're not judging it? I really need to hear that.
Well, that's perfectly true.
Yeah, it's true. It was totally true, and I knew it was true. There was, So I sat down and watched it with him. Still didn't like it.
The trick is not to get wrapped up in it.
Yeah. I get on Flipboard in the morning, sometimes even before I meditate or before I just, go quiet. And after about Flipboard, it's just news. And I think it goes about 3 frames of Trump, and I go, why bother? Why even bother? Because it's silly. I'm not going to do anything about it.
I find myself talking to them.
Pardon?
I find myself talking to them.
To Trump?
Of course.
No, really.
That's
saying,
perfect.
What are you saying?
we can do something else other than this.
Yeah.
Does he answer?
You could be happy.
Did I tell you that we are doing a series of lectures in Bainbridge on the State of the Union in all over the world, State of the United States? It's very, very informative, and especially the 20 minutes is very you get a lot of information from it, and it does try to stay bipartisan, but of course something usually comes up. But it really. We go to that and we think it doesn't seem to affect us in any way like the news. To me, it doesn't. I'm able to look at it and say, oh, it's nice to have this information.
Okay.
But it's not true. But I find, so one of them last week says that we need ambassadors in the Middle East and everything. He wrote 3 letters to Trump offering to be an ambassador in the Middle East because he's been over there and done all. He sent his resume to Trump. He said, I may as well. He's got 3 addresses for Trump. And he just sat down and wrote 3 letters offering to be an ambassador. I said, you go. We'll do it. He hasn't heard back. We don't know if he ever will. But it was something, he just felt compelled to do that.
My husband used to do that.
Huh?
My husband used to write letters to the people in government, especially in Washington.
I find if I write a letter to anybody in government and I criticize them, I'm sure not going to hear back from them. But if I notice what they said that I agree with, sometimes they send me or somebody in their staff sends me a note.
Yeah.
Says thank you for that.
Jerry got notes.
Yeah. So I think it has to do with how hostile we sound or how
How you
non-hostile we sound.
Well, my brother's father-in-law, his name was Jack Hunt. He was a bit of a drinker, Jack, an Irish guy. So he called up Nixon one time, called the White House, and they said, who is this? And he said, Hunt. And one of Nixon's aides was named Hunt. And he got through 2 or 3 people before they finally found out. He wasn't who they thought he was.
But your favorite instructors or teachers, Gary Renard, right, or writer, whatever.
Yeah.
I always like him because he always says, I've attended a couple of slides seminars that don't make it real.
Yeah.
To me, when we react to the news or anything else, we're making it real.
Yeah.
And it's like one, I think it's out of Zen where it says there is subject, me, object, everything else, and an interaction between the two. And so the only thing that makes any of the 3 real is the interaction between the two. And that's what we do when we get worked up about anything that happens, whether it's the news, whether it's a dog biting me or whatever it is. We're making it real, and there we get sucked into it, and I just don't see the point. Because we're not going to change it, we're not going to do anything about it, really.
I'd like to get the dog off me.
Well, yeah. But can you? Depends on the size of the dog, right? So the dog is the dog. You know, I mean, somebody who's being mauled by, this is a unique, you've had all these cases where somebody's been mauled by a grizzly. They didn't feel anything. They don't feel anything while it's happening because the ego is gone because of the terrible fear that and they can't believe this is happening. Well, can't be really happening, so there's no pain until later. Because the ego is the only thing that makes politics or anything else interesting to us.
You know, I look at politics as Jesus talked about in the Course in Miracles, that children wake up with nightmares and monsters are under the bed or in the closet or whatever. That's what, the fear. Mm-hmm. And if the parents love them and then the fear goes away, it's a dream. Well, that's what this all is.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I used to ask, what part of this dream do I insist is serious? And as soon as I ask that question, I'm no longer in the dream. But, sometimes there are things in the dream that seem quite serious. Not so, really.
No.
When
it is, life gets difficult. When
life's not difficult. Life's a lot of fun.
If we take it seriously, it becomes difficult.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If we don't, it's not.
Take anything serious and it's difficult. Anything.
Yeah.
Have you been doing the lessons?
Yes. Every day.
Sometimes. Yesterday, beginning with yesterday's lesson, there's a whole series now that are very, very interesting, very difficult to accept. Beginning with the lesson for yesterday, in number 91.
Page 156 in the workbook.
Well, that was my lesson today. I must be a day behind you.
You're never a day behind, honey.
156, page 156.
156, well,
Oh,
yeah. What page is that?
147.
Go back.
156?
You're wrong place. You gotta go back here.
Miracles are seen in light.
Miracles are seen in light. What does that mean? What does that mean? Miracles are seen in light.
We see what we want to see.
If our mind is not open, the miracle can be there, but you won't find it. You won't see it. And what does it take to keep your mind open?
What's that?
What does it take to keep your mind open
Not
enough to
knowing.
see miracles?
Not knowing. If we know, we're already in trouble. So trying to live as not knowing is the way I look at life.
Not judging.
That means
Something
really not
called
judging.
forgiveness. We can describe it many different ways. But forgiveness, if we keep in our mind that at any time that we seem to be searching for anything and hoping, of course, to see it in a miraculous light, our mind must first be open. And only in our willingness to forgive will we understand what that means.
I love what Wayne Dyer says. He says, have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing.
Yeah, that's good.
Good advice.
Yeah.
I've always thought, when I think about forgiveness, I think, well, I have to have judged first. Because, the whole book seems to be about forgiveness, and I'm thinking, well, if we weren't judging, would we even need to forgive?
The mere fact that we have a perception is a judgment.
Is there an answer to that?
Yes. Forgiveness is the answer. Now,
But
the thing
is
that
what
forgiveness...
he said.
Pardon me?
But what he said was, if you even feel that you need to forgive, then you have already made a judgment.
Yes.
You decided.
You've decided that it was real.
Yes. Like I read the newspaper in the morning, and I skip anything that is fighting on whatever level. So it's a very quick thing. Go through the paper very quickly. So that in itself is, as I've passed judgment on every article that I don't want to look at, because even in the headline it says that it's going to be about fighting.
Right.
So how do you not make a judgment? That in itself is a judgment, right?
Yes.
So how can you be free of any judgment?
You cannot be free of any judgment and still hold on to the perception as we know it. And we can move ourselves toward what the Course calls true perception. But perception, the average ego, let's say, it would be impossible not to have a judgment. So the thing that he tells us is to always be willing and being present enough to be able to turn it over. To call in the Holy Spirit and say, I see a judgment here, obviously. Help me to see it differently. Show me how to see past this to the light of Christ. Show me how to have an open enough mind that I can see the miracle that is always there.
Well, I try to, when I feel like when I've read something and I've passed judgment, then I always try to pass the opposite. I mean, I try to think, well, that person, had problems, blah, blah, blah. I always try to balance it out with something positive. But there I've made not one, but two judgments.
That doesn't work.
No.
No. The only thing that works is to see it in the light of the Christ vision. So we're always asking, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. How many times do we read that in the text? Help me to see differently.
What helps me is it's not anything I've done. It just comes to me several times every day. This isn't real. That thought comes into my head. And it's usually when I'm judging, like you say, reading. It doesn't take me long to go through the paper anymore either, because I do it the same way you do. If there's anything negative, I just skip over it.
Who is the me?
Yeah. But this statement comes to me, I'd say 5 or 6 times a day. This isn't real. It just reminds me, this is all a play. It's all an illusion. It's all a game. The Course calls it all of those things. None of those things are real. It's a dream.
I got a text from my daughter-in-law, and this is kind of speaks to what we're saying here. And this is a statement from Eckhart. It says, surrender, or sometimes surrender means giving up, trying to understand, and becoming comfortable with not knowing. Okay? Then we go a step further, and a friend of mine sent me this relating to that. One must not only surrender the desire to know and understand, but must go beyond the distinction-making mind that is attached to feeling comfortable or not comfortable in knowing. Who is it that wants to know? Who is feeling discomfort? Only then can we find liberation from the duality of knowing or not knowing, or comfort or discomfort. The mind that consistently leads us to make distinctions about anything and everything is simply the dog chasing its tail. Things are only as they appear, without distinction.
So what does the Course say about knowing? It says you know nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Could you be a little more clear?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. What is there to know? Who needs to know?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I've looked into that a lot about this knowing thing, and then I realized that I'm not interested anymore in knowing. I'm interested in being. And then, well, what do you want to be? Well, I want to be loving. I want to be peaceful. I want to be friendly. I want to be kind. And so, without having to do any knowing at all, I can be those things, peaceful and loving and kind. And then, as I get out there in my day, here's an opportunity. Somebody yells at me, and I thank them. And they look at me like, huh? But what I'm really saying is, okay, I offended you. I really am sorry. I offended you. I didn't mean to. So this whole idea of being has become way more important than knowing anything. I don't care what I know. I could know 27 languages. Would I be any wiser? No. I just know more languages. Maybe know what's wrong in more languages too. You never know.
Some of the most enlightened beings have known to be illiterate. They didn't know a lot. They just knew the right stuff.
They knew how to love.
Yeah.
Remember, that's the one thing that we all have in common. Our desire to love and to be loved.
I love that.
Tom, you hit a very important piece of information there that I've misplaced for quite a while now, and it's to ask Christ for a different way of looking at something, and then have maybe get some understanding that had escaped me before, and I don't want to forget that.
One of the recent lessons, Brother says, you may ask yourself, how can I get myself out of this? And the answer is you can't. You can't. You simply don't know. But you have the ability to access the vision of Christ.
The other question is, what would love do here? Or be here?
That's an excellent way to perceive it, Teddy. What would love do here?
In Walsh's book, Conversations with God, he says there's only two questions you need to ever ask yourself in any situation. The first is this who I am? And the second is, what would love do now?
I'm sure we need the first one. Really, I don't mean to be insulting or anything, but I'm not sure we need the first one. If we would always ask, what would love do? We will be led to peace and happiness and joy and all the things that we say we seek. And that's enough.
I'll share with everybody. I'm being trained to be an assistant chaplain at the hospital. And I know that when I get to the door of each hospital room, I remember as a nurse, going into the room and how I was at that time. Now, before I go into the room, I know I just ask the Holy Spirit to be there with me and to guide me in whatever comes, because I don't know.
That's so fun.
This is how I can give my love. This is how I want to.
I think the second part of that is equally important for us to take note of. that when we call on the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we say, I don't know, please show me. What is it that shows you? When you then move into a mode of knowing. So what is it about you?
It shows me
It
that
simply knows.
I'm speaking to Christ in them and the Christ in
It shows you that you are the Christ. And that the transition that was really made was simply that. Not to bring you something that you didn't have.
No.
Just to call your attention to the fact that you have it. That it is you. You are the Christ. You are God.
I think our function here is not to learn, it's to remember what we already know.
Yes. Indeed.
Be the light we seek. That's what I say to myself in situations. Be the light you seek. And then that doesn't give me any hardcore answers, but it seems as though the things that I do when I'm in that place always are peaceful, always are joyous. I don't know what else.
And they make
They're
you
the
feel
right
loving.
thing.
They make you feel loving.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we have time. I would like to read this lesson and discuss it if you find something here that you don't understand. Because it's so key, so crucial. Honey, why don't you start with the first paragraph?
When
Miracles are
things
seen in light.
in light, okay.
Right.
It is important to remember that miracles and vision necessarily go together. This needs repeating and frequent repeating. It is a central idea in your new thought system and the perception that it produces. The miracle is always there. Its presence is not caused by your vision. Its absence is not result of your failure. You will see them in the light. You will not see them in the dark.
Its absence is not the result of your failure to see.
Yeah.
It is only your awareness of miracles that is affected.
Only our awareness that is affected. How many times a day do you remember to ask? Keep track tomorrow. Keep track of how many times you recognize that you've forgotten and you choose to know, and so you ask.
I think I've been coming here now for 6 years. And I think the thing that I've heard Tom say more often than anything else is that's the Holy Spirit to help me see this differently. How come I don't do that? You'd think I would have got that by now.
Okay, read. Okay. To you then, light is crucial. While you remain in darkness, the miracle remains unseen. Thus you are convinced it is not there. This follows from the premises from which the darkness comes. Denial of light leads to failure to perceive it. Failure to perceive light is to perceive darkness. The light is useless to you, then, even though It is there. You cannot use it because its presence is unknown to you. And the seeming reality of the darkness makes the idea of light meaningless.
Any questions?
I think when we're looking at the news and getting caught up in it, we're in the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
The reality, the seeming reality of the darkness is there.
You can see how everybody's caught up in the ego.
All except me.
Val, you want to read?
You'd rather not read.
Sure.
Just pass.
To be told that what you do not see is there sounds like insanity. It is very difficult to become convinced that it is insanity not to see what is there and to see what is not there instead. You do not doubt that the body's eyes can see. You do not doubt the images they show you are reality. Your faith lies in the darkness, not the light. How can this be reversed? For you, it is impossible, but you are not alone in this. Your efforts, however little they may be, have strong support. Did you but realize how great this strength, your doubts would vanish. Today we will devote ourselves to the attempt to let you feel this strength. When you have felt the strength in you, which makes all miracles within your easy reach, you will not doubt. The miracles your sense of weakness hides will leap into awareness as you feel the strength in you. Next.
Okay. Three times today, set aside about 10 minutes for a quiet time in which you try to leave your weakness behind. This is accomplished very simply as you instruct yourself that you are not a body. Faith goes to what you want, and you instruct your mind accordingly. Your will remains your teacher, and your will has all the strength to do what it desires. You can escape the body if you choose. You can experience the strength in you.
You can escape the body if you choose. How many of us are choosing to do that?
If I do choose it, I'll stay. It only seems to last for a short while. And then I choose again, and it's not the choice. Not that same choice.
I encourage you to watch. I know this sounds ridiculous. To watch the choices you make and just admit how many of them are choices made for the body's comfort.
I think it goes to a sense of survival, the comfort.
The whole idea of survival is the idea of the body being real. When he tells us you can't die, it's impossible for you to die.
We have to believe the idea, the words, I am not a body. I am free. I am as God created me. And if that's true, then I use the word spirit. I like that word. Then I'm not a body. I'm spirit. Spirit, I know, is eternal. I'm okay with that. Eternal. Okay? And I think all of us are eternal spirit playing in the body. And I like the word playing because, we can make it serious and say laboring or something like that. But it can be fun.
Of course, this is a children's game.
Yeah, it is a children's game.
Problem is we never grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like paragraph 3 here, where it says it's very difficult to become convinced that it is insanity not to see what is there and to see what is not there instead. Your faith lies in the darkness, not the light. That is tough.
It is very tough.
Look around here and say none of this is real.
This is the darkness.
Yeah.
Well, out in the world, I see that there's two kinds of people. People who see what's wrong and people who see what's right. And what I notice is the ones that see what's right are a heck of a lot happier than the ones who see what's wrong. So I go that way.
But even the idea of right and wrong
It's still a
is
judgment.
duality.
Perceptions.
Yeah.
Kat, would you like to take the next one?
Begin the longer practice periods with this statement of true cause and effect relationships. Miracles are seen in light. The body's eyes do not perceive the light. But I am not a body. What am I? The question of which this statement ends is needed for your exercise today. What you think you are is a belief to be undone. For what you really are must be revealed to you. The belief you are a body calls for correction, being a mistake. The truth of what you are calls on the strength in you to bring your awareness what the mistake conceals.
You are the experience of God loving. That answers it pretty succinctly.
But in a body.
Pardon me?
But in a body.
If you happen to perceive that, so be it. Why resist it?
Yeah.
If that is what's on your plate for right now, then lick your plate clean.
Isn't that what we're all perceiving, though, that we're bodies?
Yes. And that's why I think it was last meeting where I told you that I think that one of the primary goals of consciousness as of this particular time in our story is that we will now discover that there's not even a need for the body to die. We are not the body. Now that might sound a little like you're trying to save the body, but that's not it at all. What you're doing is coming to grips with what the body really represents. And that's the idea of separateness.
The body could be a toy in the children's game. Of course, it talks about how we move around our toys and so on.
It is a toy.
Yeah. It's a belief to be undone, it says here.
It is a belief to be undone. But you see, we must be the ones who undo it.
Yeah.
When it seems to die via a disease or an accident or something like that, it's as though someone else is letting go of the body for you. And my point is that consciousness is now in the process of deciding literally to let it go on its own. But before it can let it go on its own, it has to admit that it can keep it as well. See, there's nothing wrong with the body. It's what it represents for us. It's the feeling that it allows us to be separate. Well, if you decided when you went home that you no longer needed to be separate and you chose to step away from your body for a while, wouldn't that be a much easier way for you to acknowledge that it was your choice not to be a body?
That's what people feel when they go an out-of-body experience.
It is, Teddy.
Yeah.
It is. And highly recommend that.
Okay.
Really. And it's not that difficult. If you give up your expectations of what it's like and just ask for the experience, Holy Spirit is all too happy to guide you through it.
Well, I know after I have a massage, Connie, she's so wonderful, and I almost feel like I'm floating above the table when she finishes the massage. We go so deep. And she feels it too, and she's the one that's giving, but the giving and the receiving is one. So we both experience this. Other than that, I've never felt outside of my body yet.
You probably have, honey. I remember saying to Brother a long time ago what that would be like and how he could help me, guide me through it and so forth. And he very easily pointed to experiences I'd already had.
Oh, okay.
Most of us have. It's usually in a state of early morning awakening from sleep.
It seems like I remember it from childhood, leaving the body. Is that common that it's usually children? Why do we decide that we can't do that anymore?
Because parents tell us it's not real. Stop playing those silly games.
My parents didn't tell me that.
A lot of parents do, though.
Yeah. I must have decided that on my own.
Edgar Casey said once we adopted this belief that we are these bodies, then the soft spot in the skull grew over, which that is where we used to enter and leave as spirits, and it became much more difficult for us to leave.
Makes sense. But the body's not real.
But we think it is. That's the problem. This belief must be undone, it says here.
Each night when I sleep, I seem to separate from my body, and my ego goes away. And in the morning, in those first few minutes you're talking about, when you're still half asleep, there's no ego there. It takes those few moments to load in.
I think that's true, Scott.
And it's right back to the illusion.
Yeah.
But each night I feel I am separate from my body. In my dreams, I don't have any recognition of a body.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a good point. I've never had a dream where I could relate to the body either.
No, it's other people's bodies. It's other people in the dream that have bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
But not.
But you never look at your own.
No.
You don't
Right.
see your own self. No.
Yeah.
You're having the experience, but not as a body.
Right.
That's kind of the way it is in this dream, too. When we're looking out, we don't see ourselves. You know, we think it's there because we're conditioned to think it's there, but true perception is not, the body's not part of it. Our body's not part of it. It's just all those separate bodies that we need to realize are one. And that can be an out-of-body experience in itself.
Yes.
The word "in" to me is a very important word. If I say I am not a body, sometimes that seems a little funny to me. But if I say I'm not in the body, then I get the sense that I'm something greater than that. That yeah, I'm hanging out. Currently, I seem to be a body, but I'm in a body. And that means that the I am is the part of me that's me, and it's eternal. And that I am in a body is the part that thinks that bodies live and die.
That's nice to see.
And I can't see, I can only see my face when I look in the mirror. So what's looking out has nothing to do with the body. That's what allows the eyes to see.
Let's see if we can finish this up.
Sure.
Go ahead.
7.
Yes.
If you are not a body, what are you? You need to be aware of what the Holy Spirit uses to replace the image of a body in your mind. You need to feel something to put your faith in as you lift it from the body. You need a real experience of something else, something more solid and more sure, more worthy of your faith and really there. What we were just talking about.
If you're not a body, what are you? Ask this in honesty, and then devote several minutes to allowing your mistaken thoughts about your attributes to be corrected, and their opposites to take their place. Say, for example, I am not weak, but strong. I am not helpless, but all-powerful. I am not limited, but unlimited. I am not doubtful, but certain. I am not an illusion, but a reality. I cannot see in darkness, but in light.
In the second phase of the exercise period, try to experience these truths about yourself. Concentrate particularly on the experience of strength. Remember that all sense of weakness is associated with the belief that you are a body, a belief that is mistaken and deserves no faith. Try to remove your faith from it, if only for a moment. You will be accustomed to keeping faith with the more worthy in you as we go along.
You want me to read? Relax for the rest of the practice period, confident that your efforts, however meager, are fully supported by the strength of God and all His thoughts.
And all His thoughts.
All His thoughts, yeah.
Wow.
I've got it underlined. It is from them that your strength will come. It is through their strong support that you will feel the strength in you. They are united with you in this practice period in which you share a purpose like their own. Theirs is the light in which you will see miracles, because their strength is yours. Their strength becomes your eyes that you may see.
Five or 6 times an hour at reasonable, regular intervals. Remind yourself that miracles are seen in light. Also, be sure to meet temptation with today's idea. This form would be helpful for this special purpose. And then, miracles are seen in light. Let me not close my eyes because of this.
You're not talking about the body's eyes there.
No, God's thoughts, God's vision.
Thank you. Great stuff.